This is part 3 of my series looking at the CTGS game editor and how I make a simple game using it. Links to part 1 and 2 are in the description below. Okay, we ended part 2 with using a button to jump to the next page in an alphabet learning program. Each letter has its own page, and since I'm doing the program for the Swedish alphabet, we got 29 different letters and those 29 pages for letters. We could just have the program going through the pages in alphabetic order. That is probably not the best way from a learning point of view, so I want to have the order being picked in a random way. CT Code has different functions to generate random results. In this case, I prefer to just use plain JavaScript, which is what CT Code is built on top of. One reason is that JavaScript only have one data type for numbers, called numbers. This is used for both whole numbers, integers, and decimal numbers, floats. I want to generate a random number between and including 1 to 29 in whole numbers. I don't want decimals. A standard method in JavaScript to get a random number is math.random. This will generate a number between 0.000 to 0.999, however many decimals is used. If I multiply this with the largest value I want, in this case 29, I will get a random number between 0.000 and 28.999, and so on. If I use mathfloor on this will round the output value down to a whole number, so we get a result between and including 0 to 28. Adding 1 to the result will get the spread of values I want, 1 to 29. So that is what I will use. The result will determine to which page the jump will go. I will do this as a series of if-else-if statements. I don't want to repeat this code on each page, so I make a new room that only will act as a type of switchboard. All other pages jump to this room when the next button is clicked. The switchboard page will then run the random number and switch to another page in accordance with the random number. So we create a new room and name it Picker. There will be no textures connected with this room. The room will never show up for the user. It will just run the code and then send the user on to the actual next page. So the first thing we do is to set the variable, let's call it picked, to a random value between and including 1 to 29. If picked is 1, we switch rooms to room A. Else if picked is 2, we switch to room B. 3 to room C, and so on, and 29 switches to room Ö. I set the variable in the room start function. To do rooms switch from this function doesn't seem to work, so I put the if-else statements in the frame start function. For the variable to work in a different function in the room, we need to set the variable as this picked. In each of the letter rooms and the main page room, we change the room to which the switch is made to the room Picker. Let's save and launch the game and see how it works. Now, this could be a functional game or program. It pretty much does what it is supposed to do. One thing that happens is that some pages are repeated fairly close in time, and some pages might be shown relatively few times within a game session. It could be okay, but perhaps we could make some improvements. I think that one improvement would be to have all letters show up before we have a page repeated. For that I would have an array with 29 positions. In that array we would have whole numbers representing the positions of a letter in the alphabet. So number 1 represents a letter A, number 2 represents the letter B, and so on. This corresponds with the value of the variable picked when used to decide what room to switch to. That is good, since that means we can reuse the if-else-if statements. When a letter has been chosen, it will be removed from the array. So for each choice, the array will get shorter until it is empty. When it is empty, it needs to be filled again with all positions. The random value in this situation then needs to be the position in the array that is chosen, and the value of picked will be the value stored at that position. So if the array will have different length at different times, and the situation must be remembered by the program even when we leave the picker room and go to a letter room, so the variable need to be global. This is one way to do that. We go to the editor's projects page and pick the Customs Scripts tab. We create a new script. We can call it Global Variables. The name doesn't matter for the function. We then put the variable pack as an empty array in the script, and we are done. We now have a global array named pack that we can work with. I have chosen the name pack because this function reminds me of how I would handle a playing card pack and dealing cards from it. So in the picker room, in the room start function, we start by filling the pack array if it is empty. We have an if statement. If pack length equals 0, then array will have these values. We then set our random value. We need a value for the position in the array. That would be a value between and including 0 and the length of the array -1. Math floor, math random times pack length will do exactly that. The variable holding this value will only be used in this function, so it can be a plain old variable. We use it to set this picked to the value held at this position in the array. We also need to remove the value from the array without leaving a hole in the array. We can use splice for that. The first parameter tells where the splice begins, the second how many items the splice will contain, which is the one item. Finally, we can simplify the code by joining those two lines of code. Okay, let's save and launch. And it runs nicely. It seems to do what it is supposed to do. Well, this will be all for this part of the series. In the next part we will deal with the clue button and the sound button. When that part has been done and uploaded, there will be a link in the description below. So this is all for today. See you later, I hope. But for now, bye.